Okay, 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask everybody to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 2, reading of the mission statements. And for that,
our mission, Macomb County Community Mental Health, guided by the values, strengths, and informed choices of the people we serve, provides quality services which promote recovery, community participation, self-sufficiency, and independence.
thank you. Item number 3, adoption of the agenda. Okay, motion by Donna, support by Lori. Look at you ladies on top of it tonight. Okay, item number 4, hearing of, oh, that's right. We have to vote.
Aye.
All in favor? I'm a little rusty, you guys, so I might need a reminder. All right, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Item number 4, hearing of the public. Is there anybody that wishes to address this board? Go ahead, come on up to our makeshift podium here. Please give us your name. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Thomas. I'm a nurse at West, and I came because I heard this is our last time to say anything in regards to the move. I think it was proposed West to go to the place on Mountain. So my main thing I wanted to address is the bus stop, because I'm not sure if any of you realize that the walk from the bus stop to the building, if you time it, me walking, which I can walk fairly fast, 7 minutes. So you're talking about someone with mobility issues, you're talking a lot longer than 7 minutes. And right now there's no sidewalk. And so, and on top of that, our people are on psych meds, which in the heat would make them overheat even more. Number 2, what about inclement weather? And the fact that I don't think we realize, or maybe any of you realize, how many of our people actually take the bus. And right here, they get dropped off right in front of the building. They just walk up and they don't. That to me is a big thing, and I think expecting people to get dropped off at a bus stop and walk 10 minutes at minimum for some of these people, maybe 15 with mobility issues, is really preposterous and inhumane of us to do to our consumers. When we're supposed to be putting them first, it seems like in this decision, they're not getting put first as far as that goes, okay? And the other thing, I'm not sure what the plan is for the nurses' rooms and injection rooms, and I hope whoever does the planning, I haven't seen any of it, so it's kind of hard for me to address that. But right now we have separate rooms for the nurses, we have injection rooms, we all have our own caseload as well. We are dealing with delicate medical issues with people, which if we were to be thrown into one room together is not very conducive for what we do. So I don't know how you guys plan on doing that, because I haven't seen blueprints of that. So I hope you keep that in mind, and I hope that when you guys plan this kind of stuff, that you guys would ask clinical people their opinion on how some of that stuff is laid out, so that it would work best for our consumers and for those of us that are doing the work. And I don't know, also one more point is that this is a heavy traffic building, and I don't think you guys realize, like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, this place is packed with people. You can't even get in the parking lot. It's just nonstop people. So I think you got to remember the traffic and the amount of people coming here. People without transportation, relying on bus, riding their bikes, walking. We have a lot of people with a lot of issues, and the buses are only hope. And with them being dropped off that far, getting to our building is a very important issue that needs to be considered.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board? There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Okay, item 5A, request to approve contract with 1111 via CDW for a 3-year term in the amount of $74,359.60 for cloud disaster recovery. This has been approved by legal. I'll take a motion.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Megan, support by Antoinette. Dan, is this you?
That's me. So this is actually all wrapped into the next piece. All of those contracts are connected. cost of hardware, we're looking at being a pretty big cost savings to just take all of that, move it up to the cloud. We're going to maintain copies of all that data here, but we're basically flipping. We're putting our services in a place where we don't have to worry about power, data service, anything like that. We're going to maintain ownership of that data here, where if there's any issues, we can always pull it back. So we're looking at about projected up to $45,000 savings per year. I know the contract is pretty big, but it affords us a lot of redundancy, the ability to expand if we need to, or to pull back and shrink things down. Is there any questions? I know there's a lot of words there.
Maybe this is a dumb question, I don't know enough about it, but is it safe there from being hacked or stolen or
Yes.
someone getting into it?
It's
One of the big concerns that I have is confidentiality.
we will be afforded all of the same security measures that we have here. Actually, we'll be afforded more, but I can't guarantee anything that we don't control. But in terms of what we control for security, firewalling, etc., we will have all of those same features. So there's no difference in the way that those things are handled. They're just not in the administration building.
I mean, I have Ascension doctors, and they were just hacked. Then I went to McLaren, and they were just hacked. So, it's like, everywhere I go now is getting hacked. So, that's the reason why I'm kind of concerned about that.
I can tell you, the Ascension ones, all their stuff is on site. I have a friend who works there, so they manage all their stuff in house. I can't speak to McLaren, but we will have all of the same security features we have now. These things are not getting pushed offshore to the primary data centers in Dallas, Texas. We will have a failover data center in Richmond, Virginia. And then, like I said, if everything goes boom for whatever reason, we will have copies of the data here, and we will have a continuity plan that encompasses how to handle that from here with a different setup.
May I suggest you point out the muscle crack?
Yeah, I did give you guys like a nice visual.
What you just said.
There's some boxes and frames. So if you look at the top, currently we are using the on-premise servers at the administration building for our primary infrastructure. We do have backups there as well. And then we have disaster recovery in the cloud as well as backup copies currently. What we're proposing is we're moving to sort of a three-pronged approach. So the primary infrastructure will go to the cloud. We will get backups in the cloud. We will have disaster recovery in the cloud. And we also have copies of backups here at admin, as well as a smaller, scaled down, more manageable physical server stack in case of emergency for critical infrastructure.
Any other questions for Deanne? Go ahead, Nick.
Just real quick, you've got quite a bit of redundancy in there, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
And I see you have to do some paper backup, which McLaren didn't, which is one of the big ones. And I just ask you, one of the things that I noticed when I read the contract is that it didn't include an out based on our funding, which we usually put in all of the contracts. I've asked Tracy to kind of check into that. To make sure.
Yeah, we just spoke about it briefly. So we have two contracts with this vendor already, and they operate on that standard service agreement. I will bring it up to the team that I'm working with. I don't know if that's a sticking point. It's sort of unprecedented for kids to deal with at least. I realize with the amount of side of the term, why it would be important. So I will bring it up, but I can't speak to whether or not they'll go for that. I just read over all of their service agreements, and it seems pretty locked down there. You sign, pay. But in our current situation, we just signed for cloud backup services and disaster recovery services, and we're basically taking all of that money that we just signed. I think our contract came live 2 months ago. So our first year, we'll see those two contracts roll into these and be credited. So I'm sure that there's at least facility with them, but I wouldn't make any promises that it isn't possible.
Okay,
Anybody else?
any other questions? I have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 5B, don't go anywhere, Dan,
Oh, that's
all-
it's all the same thing.
just in case there's any other questions. Item 5C, request to approve contract with 1111 via CDW for a 3-year term in the amount of $233,609.08 for infrastructure as a service.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Megan, support by Antoinette. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, that's all the same.
Okay.
It's all low tier. We don't do one, we don't do there.
Any further questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Item 5C, request to approve a commercial lease with 35th Macomb LLC for 19800 Hall Road, Clinton Township. This has been approved by legal. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Antoinette, support by Bill. TJ?
Good evening. Bringing 2 commercial leases before you tonight. I'd like to read a brief statement before I answer questions. What I'm about to read can and should be considered applicable for both of the leases being presented tonight. It addresses both of the leases. About 4 to 6 weeks ago, supervisors along with program director were given the opportunity to tour the new Mound Road location and the 19800 Hall Road location. At that time, a summation of the layout and overview of the facility were presented, ideas were shared, and voices were heard. Designs were incorporated into the drawings listed as Exhibit B and Exhibit C respectively in your packages. Those are the drawings. Based on those drawings and subsequent build-out costs, how much it would cost to do what we need, leases were negotiated, and those leases are being presented here tonight. The numbers and terms behind these leases have been reviewed by finance, legal, and our interim CEO, and offered up as acceptable by each of those entities. And a great big thanks to Tony for lending his expertise, his insight, and incredible Excel spreadsheet skills. Thank you. A walkthrough for board members was also offered of the current facility, this building that we're in. We are now in basically to showcase the shortcomings and the reasoning behind this proposed relocation. We've heard the calls for safety and previously registered concerns from all corners of both our staff and as related to current events. That is the single greatest motivating factor of this proposed move. Along with that, there are some other significant pros that I would like to highlight. 1, additional space. The space being presented, this is both locations, is being traded for a currently unusable garage storage space that's located directly behind us. That is located here and serving little to no purpose. The new space will translate into a more open and yet secure working environment. It will allow for the expansion of programs and staff much more efficiently. It will allow for flexing of programs, better oversight, and in some cases accountability. 2, our current configuration of West is represented by an aging industrial building that taxes both our bottom line with repairs, but is also simply not representative of what MCCMH is or is to become. Both new facilities offer a fresh approach to client traffic, ease of mobility, and an opportunity for front-facing staff to better accept, greet, and direct clients. 3, an opportunity also exists for us to retrieve all of our Iron Mountain storage, which it calls, and to bring that in-house for digitization or destruction. 4, reconfiguration of office space in new or used furniture is also scheduled as part of this relocation. Many of our staff have been working behind old desks or chairs for years, and this allows us to address some of that as well. Technology, number 5, technology is fast working its way into our system via telehealth or call queues and the like. This space in concept greatly improves that capability. While there are many pros to this move, in my mind, there is always an anxiety behind relocating to office or informing clients of the new office. Moves of this magnitude are always hard, and I've been through quite a few. It takes about 30 days after settling in, and a new normal is always established. I anticipate that will be the case here. I see our staff are resilient, but I suspect there will be disruptions, negative comments, and maybe some attrition. I hope that is not the case. We welcome staff input, but the implementation of many differing, varying voices does not always result in a cost-efficient, productive step forward. When the time comes for some design elements, we'll be sure to bring in some of those voices. We will seek to create a cohesive, integrated, welcoming space that all feel welcome and can enjoy the 8 hours a day that they work in the office. Finally, it should be noted that these leases need approval in tandem with each other. One does not work without the other, without the approval of the other. It in no means is a threat. That's just a statement of fact that we can't move into one without moving into the other. A byproduct of CMH not being able to own property. At this time, I'm willing to take any questions surrounding any portion of these leases, their terms, or our plans for relocation that you may have. And if you'd like, I can address both the bus stop issue that was brought up, public speaking, and the blueprint issue. But I'll wait for your questions to ask that.
Well, let's start with that. Why don't you address those and then we can take questions.
So we have searched Macomb County high and low for a facility that would work. You cannot find a building in Macomb County right now that accommodates, that is almost move-in ready with small build-out that we're doing on a bus line. There's just nothing that exists unless it's retail space. And if you move into retail space, we're looking at double the cost of what we're currently paying. Currently, our north building is not on a bus line. People navigate there via taxi, via smart bus. However, it works. We think that a 7-minute walk between the bus stop and the front door of our building is an acceptable walk. It is really nice having this bus stop right out front here. When this building was first built, that bus stop was not here, and I pulled teeth to get it installed here. If they should ever open a bus line on Mound Road, which there is some talk of doing in the future, obviously I would do the same thing for that location. So that is the bus line issue. You just can't find anything on a bus line. It's very, very difficult to do, to find the size that we need and for the building to do what we need it to do. We are a bit of a unicorn. Not quite healthcare, not quite retail, not quite industrial. We're not any of those. It's very, very difficult. And we look at a lot of buildings. So that is my question regarding the bus stop. Regarding the blueprint, it is correct. I have not brought any staff member in on the blueprint. We're not at that stage yet. We have designed the building, and we're going to have it built, but there are going to be some great factors involved for all programs and divisions of those programs. Nurses in particular, they'll have their own space, their own injection room. The OBRA will have their own suite. It's going to have some factors that we have not brought to the table yet, only because we want to keep our costs low in the build-out. But I will bring in those program supervisors as I need to sort of develop each of those spaces. But I think we have those bases covered. So, any questions regarding the bases?
Selena?
Couple questions here. On the Hall Road location, right now parking does get challenging because of pace. They have a lot of vehicles in the parking lot. When Wrights has education going on, or there is another seminar, when you put the people on the second floor, and they also are bringing people in from the community, how are we gonna manage all the parking? Is it adequate to
So,
run all of these cars in the community there?
so Selena, directly to our east of that building is a very large parking lot, if you've ever noticed. That is also our parking.
Right.
And we will be using that parking lot as part of the,
So are our associates gonna go into that, and then all of our consumers gonna actually get the parking lot?
so like, we have not gotten all the way down to that detail.
Okay.
But what will happen is that doors that have access control, where people park will be relative to where they enter the building. So the upstairs is going to be ACT and training, but training takes up one other end. So training might take the parking spot space that's closest to PACE. The folks that come in for training for ORR might take up some of that parking lot. They might take up some of the other parking lot. They'll be able to walk all the way through the building into the elevator and get upstairs. The people that work currently in administration, whether it's MCO or the remainder of administration, they may park across the street now and now come in through a different door. So that will all be controlled through the access control.
Okay. So,
There will be enough parking.
okay, the mound location. I'm gonna let you know right now, I do not believe 7 minutes for our consumers is adequate. For me on 2 legs, 7 minutes is just fine. Is it true that there is not a sidewalk?
There is a sidewalk.
Who maintains that sidewalk?
But that you typically, I do not know the answer to that question, but typically sidewalks are maintained by the property owners of the property
So
that they're
that's
on.
a concern, because our consumers are gonna come in, they're handicapped, with walkers, with wheelchairs, and they're gonna have to maneuver. 7 minutes for somebody like that maybe has a poor gait is a lifetime to get to. And we already have to risk ice, slippery areas, rain, and they're gonna be very wet. What happens when they get out there and they've missed their bus? Maybe the bus comes early, and now they're sitting out there vulnerable to the outside weather. They don't have adequate coats, they don't have adequate boots, hats, gloves. Our people are vulnerable, and we are expecting them to walk somewhere that I would not do to go to my own doctor's appointment. I don't like this idea. I'm sorry, I just don't. I have a nephew that I'm a guardian of, that I would never expect him to do that on his own. And he takes the bus to his appointments. He comes right here on his own from his group home. I will never, ever allow him to do that. It's too far on his own.
As I said before, we cannot own property.
I get
We
it.
are limited to leasing property, and we are limited to leasing property that we can find and that we can afford. And this was that location.
Lori, did you have something?
Yeah, I also wanted to address the parking. You said it gets very busy here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe. So, how many parking spots do we have here?
I do not know.
Do you know how many parking spots are gonna be there?
There is 138 plus. That plus is located adjacent to our parking lot. So again, someone would have to walk from that parking lot over to our building. But we are guaranteed 138 spots. I did count vehicles when I came here today at 4 o'clock. There was 45 vehicles in the parking lot today at 4 o'clock. So, and 10 of those were fleet vehicles. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, we may see a whole lot more. We haven't done a study to see how many vehicles. We have parking here around the building and in the parking lot out front. We did not see the new building on Mount Road as an issue with parking. We looked at it for sure, forensically, and it was not an issue.
And the other thing it's not regarding this part that I'll bring it up now, is I agree with Selena, the mobility issues. Because she's right, I go to Beaumont and go to my doctor, I'm cursing. Walk, parking I always end up on the road. And then you're doing that long walk in. Or when I've had to do it with my father, my mother-in-law, who are on walkers or something. It probably took twice as long, if not 3 times as long, as it was if I was walking there. So I do totally agree with Selena on that one. I think that's, I would never allow my son either to walk that far alone on his own. And then my other thing was, I'm glad to know, and I'm hoping that you do meet with people in different departments, very sure, with the people that are running the departments here, whether it's training, nursing, whatever. Meet with all of that, see what their needs are. If you're training and you're using a training room and you have 80 people walk in for a training or whatever, I don't know how many come in all the time, but are they going to be able to accommodate those people coming in? I know how recipient rights, how many people can walk in there, and it gets pretty doggone crowded. So I'm hoping you go to them and say, what works for you? What works for your group? And yes, you're probably going to get negative comments, but you've got to listen. That's it.
Thank you, Lori. I have Bill, then Donna, and Megan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. TJ, one of my main concerns is also the bus stop. You said you got one put in here. How did that process go? How long did that process take?
It took over a year.
Okay.
And it took some schmoozing. I can't remember the fellow's name now. That worked for SMART. They had to do all kinds of traffic studies. There was a lot involved with that. And eventually we convinced them to do it. And we had to pay for the sidewalk that goes out. We're also responsible for maintaining that sidewalk out to that bus stop. And I don't know if SMART actually shovels their own bus stops. I don't know that question for that, but it took a considerable amount of time. We were in here for probably a year and a half before we got that installed.
That was going to be another question of mine. And also, looking at this new location, settling in on that location being the idea, have you reached out to SMART at all to start that process? To even begin the conversation?
Because it is not on a bus line, I just assumed that was probably a non-starter.
Where is so the bus stop is not on Mound?
It is not on Mound, it is on 15.
It's on 15. Okay.
And it's a straight sidewalk all the way up.
I guess I'm going to email SMART. Thank you, TJ.
Yeah, Mound does lend itself to a bus line now because of its new construction and the thoroughfare that is pretty consistent, but that is a decision way beyond me for.
And I want to be able to help with that because this is a major concern and it is a very important piece of this for many of us, obviously. And I think that's something that maybe Commissioner Wallace and I can help you with SMART and see if it's something we can.
I would say this, and again, it's not a threat. It's a fact, and I make sure that in full transparency, if we do not meet the timeline of this month for approval, this is really off the table.
Sure.
There's no time left now to try. And to be honest with you, we have not negotiated with the landlord here, only because it would have worked against us in doing so. I could now go back and try to negotiate something for our future here. There's a chance that that may not happen as well. So, yeah, no, not a threat. I just want to let people know where we are with this. So,
and that's why I want to start with SMART immediately because I would feel far more comfortable approving this in 2 weeks' time, knowing that, hey, SMART's going to throw a bus stop in there in 6 months or 8 months because we're still going to need time to move, we're going to need time to build out over there. And putting all that timeline together, I would feel significantly more comfortable if we at least had an idea of a possibility that there would be a bus stop as opposed to now where you have a 7-minute walk. Too bad. So that's something that I'm going to work on.
it should be noted, our children's is not on a bus line. Our children's unit is not on a bus line. North is not on a bus line. But the SMART bus does come in when you schedule it. It does bring people in.
Yes.
it is just impossible. Trust me when I tell you, I have been working on this for 6 months. There isn't nothing on bus line. And because we cannot build something specific and own it, this was, for lack of a better term, this was the best I could do for a location.
Thank you, TJ.
Donna?
I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I sent to you, because a lot of the board didn't hear my questions, nor your answers, so you can just give the answers. Therapists are located at this location, as you well know, and they need a lot of confidentiality.
That's correct.
With a lot of open concept, I'm concerned about confidentiality, so will there be an area that will be very confidential for them? And also coordination of care and financial information shared a lot. So I'm concerned about that. And having been a therapist, I know how important it is to have soundproof rooms and a lot of confidentiality. And I saw that there's going to be a lot of open areas. So can you speak to that?
I can. In the design of this, as I said when I started, safety is the driving feature. We've heard it from staff members at other locations, and you have read about it in the news. The safest way is to have our staff enter the building and move to a location where they're going to receive their services, whether it's telehealth, injection, med review, therapy, case management review, any of those services, those all require a degree of privacy. There's going to be individual offices that are all set up to the same way to offer those services. The staff are located in a different location, so when the client comes in and they're escorted back to one of those offices, once they're seated, once they're settled and offered a cup of coffee or whatever it is, their case manager, their nurse, their therapist comes to meet them. They're not going into their office. We are going to have a lot of cubes. We're moving to cubes. We cannot get a building that has an office for everyone. So we're getting cubes that are high-walled, soundproofing on the walls. We're trying to accomplish that through a number of different things. Currently, a lot of people in our organization work on the phone, and you can hear somebody, but you can't hear their conversation. So if a therapist needs to have a private conversation, they can go to any one of those rooms. There's going to be meeting rooms. There will be rooms for private conversation.
My second question is, can you address the safety precautions at the new location? You know, that's been a big issue with a lot of the areas, especially at First North. So what will be the safety precautions?
So we will have access control. So our staff will be able to move throughout the building with access control cards. Clients will come in to a lobby, be escorted to their own restroom facilities, and then they will go to a secondary lobby where we imagine a peer will escort them to any number of rooms where they could be seated for their services. And then our staff, like I said, our staff come over to them rather than having that client move through the building to an office. They're going to go to a specific place that is just for clients. And they can't get into any other part of the building where staff are seated or are working. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the rest of my questions are, if we do not approve this tonight. If we do not approve this tonight, could new chairs and tables be ordered for the current location that we have?
Sure.
And upgrades could be made to this current location?
It could.
Yes.
We're spending an awful lot of money on this building for repairs.
Right.
This is a triple net lease. The new building on Mount Road is also a triple net lease. It's a much newer building. We're paying for all repairs. We get a roof leak, we're paying for it. We get an air conditioner that goes down, we're paying for it. The elevator goes down, we're paying for it. And this building has a lot of setbacks as far as repairs go. Tony, do you remember what the number was,
On average, about 50,000 a year is what we've been running just on repairs.
just on repairs.
250.
50,000
50,000.
annually.
Right. We're gonna continue, that will still be ours to shoulder, those repair costs. If we stay here, we're simply going to keep making those repairs. It's a tough spot, as I default again, we can only lease property. We can't own it. And it really hamstrings us in what we can find. When we got into this building, it worked because we needed to expand our training. The state said our training was lacking and we had to find additional training space. This building works for everybody together, but it doesn't work for any single program. It's old, it's got its problems for sure. There's no question about it. We could make upgrades, we could do build outs, we could make it safer, we could do all of that. This landlord's building. That's what we're
My
doing.
last question is, item C and item D are two separate items. They're not connected, right? So we could approve C and not approve D.
As I said, one of these
No, you can't
does
do-
not
are
work
they-
You
without
either
the
or
other.
you don't.
They're
That makes
connected.
sense.
I was
They are.
wondering why they weren't just one
They're
item.
not connected, but there's so much staff in this building that I'm splitting programs.
I wonder why they weren't just one item.
Right. Because they're two separate contracts.
Okay.
But I'm splitting up here and here. I can't close this building unless both of these work.
So both items either have to be up or be down.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Megan?
First, thank you for that very thorough explanation at the beginning. Last time I was here, you spoke at length about this and that you were able to use them up. I negotiate commercial real estate leases for a living. I'm very aware of the real estate market and finding locations is difficult. You really are stuck. It's not like you fit something into a plaza, right? We have to have space for everything. So thank you very much for your thoroughness. I also do want to try and recall, you were able to beat them up quite a bit, right? Can you talk about that?
When I first came to this board, I initially said we were looking at about $500,000 a year in additional lease cost and a one-time $500,000 for furniture and some upgrades. That lease cost is now below $200,000 a year, $187,000. And there's some things that we can take advantage of to maybe take that a little bit further south as well.
Sure.
We're still looking at furniture costs. They're not going to be anywhere near $500,000. They're probably going to be closer to $90,000.
Does that include any like tenant allowance too? Is tenant allowance lumped into that, or do you get tenant allowance on top of that for the new building?
There was no tenant. Oh, for build out?
Yeah, for building.
So the build out is described in Exhibit B and C on the respective leases.
Sure.
That is all rolled up into the lease cost.
Is it possible then, and this I guess is more rhetorical, so I apologize, Madam Chair, if I'm being rhetorical, but with the vast savings that we have from what we thought it was going to be, we potentially use those funds as a Band-Aid until we figure out something with Commissioner Kraft and Commissioner Wallace and see if they can muscle on the smart bus line. Because I will say, just in Macomb County in general, public transportation, Macomb County is not done well with public transportation, right? So that's outside of your scope. That's outside of, we have two fabulous members of the Board of Commissioners who can speed them up a little bit. But is that something, I guess, for you and Tracy, that we can maybe utilize some of the funds that we're saving and not putting into a building that is not ours to Band-Aid that until they can come with that? I know that it's very
Timing
important.
is not great.
Timing is not great.
So I'm sure you also know, buildings become available, you have to move quicker.
Right.
Does that make sense? So the timing of this is kind of why we're here. I don't have a lot of grace. Because of course, we would have loved another year to work through all this, but that's not how the building became available and all those other things. So I think in a perfect world, yes, the answer to your question. In a realistic, if we don't improve this,
Right.
we've lost these. And And that just is what it is.
And I do worry a little bit too about the landlord here knowing that, now that like we have no choice to exercise an option or negotiate.
The landlord here is getting ready to post this, and we have not told him of our strategy, or he is completely unaware. So, and I do know the broker, and I could then return and say, look, we would like to try to negotiate something. I don't think they would put us over a barrel, but I don't know. If I may, one of the things that I thought about, it would come at an additional cost, is to offer a shuttle
Yes,
from the bus stop
right.
to our location. That would require a van and an employee that's dedicated to making that trip, however often that bus stops. If you do not know how often that bus stops there, I would imagine it stops as often there as it does here. It's on the same line. But we could offer a shuttle with a logo that is ready and waiting if someone gets off that bus to take them back and forth to that bus. But that's not for me to decide that we have to do something else. No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go Nick and then Selena.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the shuttle issue, because I was gonna raise that. You might also want to talk to Smart about that, because if I remember correctly, they offer for elderly and disabled some shuttle services from the home to the doctor's office or someplace else. They might be able to help us with that at a better cost, and that would be really helpful. I got through one of the contracts completely and the other one about 3/4 of the way, and I indicated to TJ before the meeting that I have a lot of rather technical questions that I'm not going to bore this committee with now, but I will get with him. But that's, I think, one of the good things about having the committee consider it before the full board approve it. In a couple of weeks, we can try to find the answers to those questions. And a couple of them came up tonight that you didn't have the answers to yet, and we'll give you time to get them to us. So I think moving it on to the full board is fine, but I do have some concerns about some of the language in the contracts. I realize legal has approved it, but there are differences between the two leases. The length of the two leases is different. One's 10 years, one's 5 years. One you can terminate with like 30 days notice, the other takes 90 days notice or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they're pretty dramatic changes. And they're pretty dramatic changes in terms of what happens if there's a breach of what we're on the hook for. So we can talk about those later. There is, I think, in this a provision that indicates what happens if our funding falls out.
That language, Nick, that language is duplicate in both cases.
Yeah, I did notice that. That's pretty standard language.
Yeah, that was a no-starter. That was a non-starter for us.
Sure. So I guess I have a lot more questions. Now I have a problem personally with, unless others do, with moving it to the full board. I realized when we started this conversation, there were two huge issues, and one that's come up since then. County transportation is the third one. It's always a problem. But the two issues were cost and the shortness of time we were going to have to review all this. We did a great job of dealing with bringing the cost down. Congratulations on sharpening the pencils. But obviously, you don't have any control over the calendar. And that is a problem and still is a problem, but we just need to, I think, try to get those answers together before we make a final decision.
Okay, thanks Nick. Selena?
So, thank you for, and I don't mean to get really upset, this isn't about
That's okay.
I'm just concerned we're gonna take the independence away from the people, which might give independence too. Right now, they know they get off that bus and they go in the door with a big sign on it. Now we have to tell them, you get off the bus and you go down 3 buildings. So that is probably where I'm the most stickler, because I know my nephew can't do that. He just doesn't have the cognition to do that. So You said that it's about $50,000 a year that we're paying in renovations here,
Repairs.
in repairs. So remind me, there was also going to be a yearly increase in the lease overall, correct?
That's correct.
And you've gotten that down to about 200,000?
You're talking about the lease for the new building, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's going to be,
$187,000.
okay, and that's for both or for just the one?
That's for both. It's an overall additional layout.
Okay, so we're going to accommodate an extra 200,000, let's just say 200,000 a year. Right now, we're paying 50,000 in improvements. The furniture is a wash. We need new furniture regardless of we move. That is something that we have to give our associates. And if you walk through these rooms, the chairs are falling apart, the tables are falling apart, there's duct tape on them. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm really understanding that we're going to commit to 2 buildings, a little bit of inconvenience unless we can get that shuttle, which I think that you're going to have to get out there immediately before full board in 2 weeks. But it is going to be an additional $200,000 a year. My concern goes back to if we lose our reserves and we get ourselves into a situation like we were in previously. For those on this board, remember what it was like. We were about to close our doors and turn it over to the state. We were so far in the red, we were begging for money. I'm really concerned now. I have 2 leases that I could possibly lose.
That is why, so that we put the out clause based on funding in those leases.
But one is 5 years and one's 10 years. What
So
happens in
that's
5 years?
That's the term length.
Okay, so then it's out of.
Right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, then okay.
And in that particular case, that's the administration building. We know administration is going to be anchored there for some time. We got a much better rate, as maybe Megan can explain. The longer the term, that landlord can leverage that a little bit better. He offered us a better term as a result of that. But it still has the same out language, regardless of how long we're there.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a couple. I would echo everybody's concerns with the bus stop. I would agree with that. Do we have any idea what percentage of our consumers come by bus? Do we know what if they have access to a smart bus? Do we know anything about that? Or
Informatics would be the best department to answer that question, and I can certainly try to get that information. I don't know if we collect that information.
I'm just curious.
I don't think they do, to be honest.
Okay.
I could, like, they might know ancillary, but to have an actual, you can pull a report that says,
Okay.
you guys are correct in the way that the majority of the population, around 90%, give or take, is Medicaid eligible, and they would be eligible for the smart bus. To be fair to them, though, it's not dependable, and you really have to know, like, way in advance, right? So, like, it's not the best solution. It's a good solution to be out there, but it's just, I don't know if it's the solution for all parties, right? I do think the shuttle idea or something is something that we could explore. I guess if it's okay with you, can I just give you kind of my perspective on this? It's a very serious decision, we know, and we have the same concerns. And if you remember when you guys talked about the amount of money, everything you're saying, I 1,000% agree with potential concerns. What we weighed is this building, it's not just about the $50,000. Imagine the staff work here, and in the middle of it, they walk in the door and there's a leaking ceiling on their desk. This is like a regular occurrence. It's not like a one-off every once in a while. The toilets don't work, and we have no idea, and they'll say it's the city, and then you call the city and it's this. Like, it's a regular occurring thing. So the message that sends is it's not a professional, and what I mean professional, I'm not stuck on you have to be the Taj Mahal, but it should be warm, it should be welcoming, it should be everything you want to experience and the services you receive when you go to your doctor's office, and that's not what it represents. Because of safety, the layout of this building, we've had to lock down rooms, so when you walk in the atrium, you can't physically get anywhere. And we did that because that's safe, and that's what we'll continue to do. But that is not welcoming. That is not how we should design our layout or the services for the humans that we should provide. They should feel welcome in addition to the staff feeling safe. Their safety is just as important as our staff safety. So I guess I just want to explain the motives and ensure that how we got here was based on safety, was based on trying to make the people we serve at the center of this. There still is a lot of information, a lot of growth that would have to happen. To several of the staff's point, not only in here tonight, but in other ones, they need to be involved with, when TJ says those offices, the clinical offices, they need to be conducive to the people who are providing those services. So they will be part of the solution of what that physically looks like, but what are the resources that are needed in those rooms, like what would that all look like? The nursing station, whatever it is. They would absolutely have to be involved in that. And I know that the timing is not great, so I just want to give you that disclaimer that a lot of times people will go, we got this at the last minute, or why aren't you doing this, or why? It's a lot of times it's just because there's just not been enough time. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but just know that, as you've noticed, as soon as we knew, so I think maybe 3 months ago, literally as soon as we knew this was a possibility, and keyword being a possibility, everyone started hearing, right? Like, and you only heard about what we knew, because that's all we could share. So I guess I just want to explain, TJ and I don't want to speak for TJ, but TJ and everyone who works here is very supportive of whatever the best solution, including what you guys ultimately decide. But I just want to make sure you understand that we would never bring forth a solution that wasn't extremely thought out and wasn't well thought out. It's just maybe everyone doesn't have all the information, right? And we didn't have as much time as we'd like to make sure everybody has all the information that they would need. So in no way, shape, or form I'm trying to defend as much as just kind of explain kind of how we got there. And I greatly appreciate any of your guys' ideas or solutions.
If I thought, in reiteration of leasing, and the fact that we can't, puts us in a real position, a real struggle every 5 years, to renew a lease that we may not want to be in that building because technology changes or something else. And we are stuck trying to time a new lease versus getting out of the old one and making all of the design happen and making everything else within a short period of time, because landlords, and maybe Megan can support me on this, they're not going to wait. They've got a business to run. They want cash. They want to see it. So it's taken everything to sort of put them at bay while I bring this to you to try to get approval. And again, it's not a threat. I'm just trying to lay out the timing, and then get back to them. You know, they're ready to go. But if I tell them, look, there's a possibility this may not happen, then I think they're going to wash their hands of this entire project. So I just want to lay it out. We'd love to move. The leadership would love to move. I know that there is some anxiety on behalf of staff, and I think that we can address a lot of those issues. I think the bus stop issue is very valid, but I think there's some workarounds. So there it is. That's.
Hold on, I got one more. This is my other one, and this is maybe more of a request as opposed to a question. Maybe you and or Tracy could just summarize the staff feedback and send that to us so we know what the staff is saying. We got one thing, but if there's more, I'd be interested to hear what it is.
Can I? Yeah, yes, we can do that, but can I address that in the way that there is an anonymous, I think you guys read this anonymous suggestion box. And I did, like when Donna asked the questions, I did give the feedback, but beginning in July, forgive me, I don't know the date, mid to beginning of July, when we started sharing this information, there have been some questions, and then what we did is we created, I did an all-staff email and responded, but then we also created on our intranet page, there is something called CMH initiative, so those are keep updates on what we're doing with NCQA, and just kind of like temporary moments of time of projects, and it has the questions that were asked and the responses that were given to the staff over the last couple of weeks, essentially. In that, it has a bunch of other stuff that has nothing to do with the West League, but you guys are always welcome. I don't know if you can get to the internet, but I can always take that screenshot, essentially, and share it, essentially. And it would have, I want to guesstimate about 4 regarding, I might be wrong on the number, but about 4 regarding moves.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Nick, you have one more?
You had me, TJ, until the last comment, because if you're saying we either have to say yes or no, we can't say maybe, then you lose me.
At 4.
Oh, at 4. question I have is with this landlord, if we exceed the lease for here beyond December 31st, what are the provisions in that lease? Do we have to do a year? Do we do month to month? What are the provisions in the lease that allow that if there was a delay? I'm not saying there should be a delay. Obviously, I understand you need to move forward with the holidays and everything. But if something happened that put this off, the decision off for another month or two, and we stayed here beyond December 31st, what's the cost?
So there is no holdover, it's called holdover provision, and there is no holdover provision. So it is possible that we could negotiate something for a month. We could negotiate something for 6 months. That is really at the whim of the landlord.
Well, it's a little local, because I suspect the landlord doesn't have an anxious tenant.
I do not. He may, they may.
It may, but I doubt it. We both know that that's not likely. And of course, they may already know all of these discussions are on. I mean, this is an open meeting, so they could have, if they wanted to know that we've been considering this, whether we're true or not. But I doubt that they're going to have somebody here waiting to walk into a building that's faulty that you indicated this one is, without doing some negotiating. The issue in terms of if we have to extend is problematic for other reasons, but I think we need to know what that is, and I think what's giving most of us headache here is this decision-making process, number one, and you acknowledge that from day one. And I appreciate all the work you've done to try to deal with that problem, but I'm uncomfortable with approving the lease on the grounds that you need to approve this one or nothing else. That's not the way I operate. It's not the way I'm about to operate. I suspect most of my concerns can be dealt with somewhere along the next 2 weeks. I hope so. But if not, I mean, I think we have to be prepared to say, no, this isn't dead, but I don't think they're going to walk away. I think that's overkill on the proposal. It's maybe a good proposal by the time all is done, and I still want to have some questions on it. And as I said, I don't have a problem with moving it forward full board so that we can try to resolve those questions, but I'm not committed to saying yes to anything 2 weeks from now until those questions are resolved.
Nick, forgive me, because I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to threaten. What I'm trying to do is imply that there is a high degree of seriousness about getting this negotiated as soon as possible. That's really what I'm trying to say.
That's fair. And I'm not beating up on you, TJ. You'll know when I'm beating. In fact, you do know because I have. I'm not trying to beat up on you.
If we can't get this through, and you have valid reasons for not approving, I don't think we're trying to rush it. I did prepare the board last month that I'm going to be bringing this. It really comes down to the timing of trying to get the 2 new buildings built within 3 months to be able to move in. And if we can't come to an agreement, we cannot come to approval, that pushes that date. Then most certainly I am left trying to negotiate with the landlord of this facility for a longer period of time. And I do know, I have met the facility manager for Lippert Industries who has that building there and this building here, and they have expressed to me that they would like to try to get in on. So I do think that there is maybe somebody waiting in the wings, but we may also have an opportunity as well to extend for a couple of months. I don't know that, because alerting that landlord, I think, would have jeopardized our negotiating position. So, if after full board, again, if after full board that we cannot find a way to approval, I believe that I'm going to have to pick up the mantle to negotiate something for this building, whether it's short term, but I won't know that until after we for full board, so.
But the landlord here theoretically too could say, I don't want to.
That's correct.
And
That's
we'll
correct.
see you later.
That's correct. We're all in this together. We're all in
At the
this.
same time,
Megan?
one more, I don't mean to belabor it, what it could jeopardize though is your really great deal that you negotiated. But my question is, you mentioned a couple times, why can't we, 10,000 foot view from Tracy and TJ, why can't we own the building? Is it because of like the charter or the county or something?
It's the law.
I seriously
It's the law.
don't mean it loaded question wise, honest to God, I just really like, why can't we?
If I could, we explored the possibility
Okay.
several years ago. Governmental units
Uh-huh.
can't, except through like a building authority,
Uh-huh.
or a county agency, the county has a building authority, the county executive made it clear to us that he wasn't going to authorize us to purchase.
Anyone or just CMH?
Well,
Well, because we're different, right?
the explanation was the county doesn't want to be in a position of holding that much real estate.
Okay,
It wouldn't be us that would own it, it would have to be the county building authority.
okay, understood.
Which would be, I think.
Okay, any further questions for TJ?
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Should I do a roll call?
Yeah, it would be so.
That's not helpful. All right, let's do a roll call vote so we know. So, all in favor of moving this to program and budget, raise your hand. Oh, yeah, full board.
What is the motion?
Full board.
Moving it
So
to
moving this to full board.
Yes.
I will agree to full board.
Okay, say it again, Selena.
I will agree to moving this to full board.
Okay, so just raise your hand if you agree to move it to full board. Okay, and Donna, you're opposed?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, item, so it passes, right? Okay. Item 5D, request to approve commercial lease.
I'm getting my other set here.
Okay, 5D, request to approve a commercial lease with Liberty Professional Center LLC at 35601 Mound Road, Sterling Heights. This has been approved by legal. I'll take a motion. So moved. Support. Motion by Antoinette, support by Megan. Okay, TJ? You guys have anything else?
Everything you just said.
Yeah. I'm gonna start right now. Number 2. This is number 2. Do you guys have any questions for TJ?
This is D, right?
Yes.
Yes, this is.
Same thing.
And again, we're approving this
Just
for
board.
consideration by the full board.
But just before we do that, does anybody have any other questions? Okay, I have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so everyone's in favor except Donna. Motion passes. Thank you, TJ, but don't leave. Okay, item 5E, request to approve CMH residential lease A. This has been approved by legal. I'll take a motion. So moved. Support. Motion by Antoinette, support by Lori. TJ?
There is really nothing for me other than to say that what is not in these is a standard approval letter that I normally attach to these leases. These were negotiated and brought very quickly, and I have given both the provider and the landlord. I always give them 30 days to respond. In almost all cases here for A, B, C, D, and E, there are no landlord concerns, but the providers have some concerns, which really will not hold up the lease. So I have left a recommendation off. Each of these as part of a negotiating tactic until full board. But there would be no reason to not approve these for the condition of the home. But I will have that, as you expressed earlier, Nick, I will have that written approval letter at full board for A, B, C, and D. I could tell you how they're all 2-year leases. If you don't mind if I address kind of some of the questions all at once. They're all 2-year leases. There's 2 different landlords here in these 5. The first 3 are a 3% increase, and they did not receive an increase at the last cycle. So this 3% increase represents an increase that they have not received in the last 6-7 years. The same thing with D and E. D and E represent a 5% increase. And base rent. Taxes and insurance are always going up. But the base rent went up 5%.
Okay, any questions, Donna?
I noticed that a lot of them had a lot of repairs they had to do. Are all those done before you approve?
That's correct. And I give them 30 days to make those repairs.
Okay.
So that's why I did not put the approval letter on. I suspect these providers will have everything done within 30 days.
Okay, because some of them were kind of extensive.
Yeah, but they're quite capable.
Okay, thank you.
But you're going to report to full board.
That's correct.
On
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for TJ? I have a motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, item 5F, request to approve CMH residential lease B.
Can I make the motion to approve F through I?
Sure.
support.
Support.
Okay, motion by Megan, support by Nick to approve F through I. Any other questions for TJ? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thanks TJ.
Do you mind if I make a single comment about the residential leases, as long as that I'm good?
Nope.
We continue to try to move the residential leases off of our books and onto the providers, into the providers' column. It's becoming more and more difficult. We've sort of picked all of the low-hanging fruit, become more and more difficult. 14 years ago, we had 128 leases, and now we are down to just below 60 that we have. We didn't lose all those homes. The providers took the majority of those over. We've now removed all of our 2-story homes from our residential leases. But because of the housing market, we are going to anticipate that those leases that I do continue to bring before you are going to incrementally climb because they're quite aware of the market value of those homes now. And we are trying to convince the providers to take on their own homes and try to avoid some of those incremental increases.
Okay, thank you TJ. Thank you, comment.
Well, this is maybe more of a question, Tracy, we were also looking at residential, the residents actually, is going to be
request to approve ClearPoint strategy proposal for $11,000. I'll take a motion.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Antoinette, support by Selena. Okay, Tracy, is this you? Or, oh no, hi. Rachel, so, go right ahead.
So we're looking to contract with ClearPoint, which will help us share our public and our data publicly and internally using a platform that we can either put on the website, our public website, our intranet, or share out by email. So the reason we're trying to do the public data is it offers transparency, allows people to see what we are doing, what services we're providing, and it also helps people make informed decisions. It's all in the nice little PowerPoint, so I'm not going to go into detail unless anybody wants me to. Okay, sounds good to me. Innovation. I'm sure that this data will be good to people who are trying to learn more about mental health, see what we've done, what we're doing, what our processes are, what barriers we're going through. It also gives a point for public participation. It gives our public the chance to see what services we're offering. So, for example, we're doing evidence-based practices, 1, 2, 3 practices. They can see what we offer. And also with SUD services, CCBHC, just gives a way for people to know who we are and what we are about. It also holds us accountable. If the public knows, we know we are all the eyes on us, and we better do our job right end. Well, great. So ClearPoint is, they help us with the public data. They've worked with other organizations. The one that says reduce poverty with the slide is an example of one of the websites they've used. There's a link to the bottom. One of the things I love about them is that it allows us to show our data and filter it to what we need. But not only show our data, it gives a chance for us to give definitions of what it is, what we're doing, and it's not bulky. So sometimes you enter our website and it just so much is thrown at you that you don't know what you're looking at. This helps us kind of tame it down. So the buttons at the bottom, you can find out definitions, enlarge them, shrink them, and it's very user-friendly. Then the rest of the slides are some of the data we plan on showing. So one is a client served. Because of this public-facing data, it's going to be percentages, not necessarily the numbers of things. Our CCBHC data as well. Our KPIs will be internal for now, but we are doing well, and I hope we continue doing that so we can share with the public, especially KPI2, which is services for first-time users, and then with the evidence-based program as well. Any questions?
Any questions?
Can I just add, Rachel, you did a wonderful job. It's only like this is the cost is low considering, but imagine it's like trying to make what do we do well, what do we need to work on, really easy for everybody to understand. If you guys remember our strategic plan, I think we had 5 priorities. So this would kind of, our priorities would align with that. So you look at what are your priorities, how are you doing on your priorities, and there might be times where maybe we're not doing that well on our priorities, but it would be this transparent, public type of share, and then even though we would share the high level information with the public, it also allows us to do internally so our staff and providers, right, can see using whether it be the intranet or the provider portal we're looking to create to see how's everybody doing, what's going well, what's not going well. So it's not just this opinion based, right? We can demonstrate it through the data. So we're just excited to give a little bit more structure, right, to the good work that we're doing and the areas that we want to do better. And Rachel did a lot of work, and I greatly appreciate all the efforts.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. Any questions? Okay, I have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to item 5K, request to approve the termination of MI HealthLink contracts. I'll take a motion. So moved. Support. Antoinette, support by someone. Megan?
Some voice.
Selena?
Some voice.
Okay. Have at it, guys.
Hi, thanks for having me here this evening. Carrie Kasarka. I'm the administrator at Macomb for my Health Link. We're back in the quality department and bringing forward here tonight a request to terminate our remaining 2 ICO partnerships. That would be with HAP and Molina. If you recall, I'm not sure if everyone was on the board at that time. Maybe not. But in 2022, we terminated our agreements with Aetna, Their Health, and Meridian. And so, like I said, we're looking to terminate those remaining 2 with HAP and Molina. With that, we have had a reduction, probably about 33% in enrollment in my Health Link overall the last couple of years, for various reasons. But ultimately, this termination of HAP and Molina would have an impact on, or touch, I think it's just under or right around 500 individuals. Yeah, just under 500 individuals. We have roughly 153 with HAP Care Source, and 315 right now with Molina. There really isn't going to be an impact to the members served. I think we evidenced that pretty well in the 2022 termination. Very minimal impact was felt to any of our people served. That was relative to providers that didn't panel with the Medicare Advantage plans to become a Medicare provider, and then also to, I don't want to sound negative on this, but a slight lack of communication between the provider's choice in that panel, their primarily ancillary services, and then coordination with the primary case holder to transition services to a panel provider or an appropriate provider. So even with that, it was just very limited delay in delivery of service or continuity of their care. Ultimately, this is a business change at the PIHP level, removing our partnerships with these 2 plans. At the CMH level, it provides 0 change in our ability to serve the members, so there's no impact there for Macomb CMH to continue to work with and provide services to any of our Macomb members, be it one of any of the 5 ICOs that are currently in the county or in the region. So we'll continue to provide services as they are for all of those individuals served. If we do get the approval to terminate, we have a greater majority of those individuals being served under the CCDHC, so they'll be even more reduced potential for any impact to happen there for any of them. I think the biggest thing is it's going to reduce the burden on administration in the partnership with reporting, with the demands of the health plans, and also the financial impact on Macomb as a whole. I'll pause there.
Sure, I'll just piggyback on the last comment that Carrie made. The administrative burden of this program cannot be understated. We kept these 2 ICOs as we did an analysis in 22 because of the way this program works, and we submit our claims and we get capitated payments for them, almost like we do with the state. We were doing well financially from this program. We've since had it. I've spoken about it at length. I think Richard has, we have the My Health and State inpatient issue that ultimately we thought we did right, but lost the state, so we're going to have to recognize that as an expense. They have this document, correct?
They do. They have the bullet points document.
So a couple highlights there from a financial perspective. Before the My Health and State inpatient, us having to recognize that expense, we would be running a $500,000 deficit in this program. With the My Health issue, not only the 1.4 million that we had to set back to the state, but also they had roughly 600,000 in deficit now that they feel we should pay. We feel we don't. We've included in that number. Be conservative, but that's the situation. Also, as Carrie mentioned, at the end of enrollment in this program, we would have to enroll potentially higher clinicians than others. With Medicaid, we're taking on a
Medicare to bill those claims, and even so with our financing and enroll additional people in Ellsworth, it's tiny compared to the reporting burden. Carrie, I don't even want to speak to her life and the ICOs. So I think this is a good thing in this particular year. We deal with this deficit can be covered by Medicaid surpluses. That's how the FSR is structured for this. So certainly support it.
Selena?
So, I don't have a problem with doing this. I think that it is the right move for us. But we learned in 2022 that there was no notices given to the health systems. The hospitals that needed to get authorizations, and one day it was turned off. They had no infrastructure to do something different to get authorizations for inpatient services, and the patients suffered. They sat in the ED while they struggled to figure out who do we call, how do we manage it now? So can we please let the hospitals know that this is coming so that they can develop the process to flip this over on that last day, and it's our patients that are sitting in the hospital struggling, or the hospitals actually having to go in and do a retro off while they sort out it because they admitted the patient because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, so speaking to that, Selena, thank you. There was notification that went out. However, as it goes out through our network operations department, it may not have reached all of the staff at the level of our admissions, right? And also, on top of that too, there was a significant disservice done within the ICOs. We had communication. I did have all of the information provided to our MCO department for who the hospital facilities needed to contact within Aetna, AmeriHealth, and Meridian. However, their customer service department didn't get the memo from their own internal departments. So learning from that, and I have a whole list here of all of the things we've learned. I have a timeline drawn out. I have everything staged, ready to go so that we can have more time and have more preparedness to communicate to our entire network, as well as, most importantly, the people that we serve. I will also, it is my plan, I feel like a politician right now because it's my platform, that I will communicate with Bohat and Molina these points that we learned from in 2022, 2023, because I am still dealing with a lot of this today. As recently as Friday, had a major issue, a major phone call with Aetna, but I will communicate with HAP and Molina, the delegation or dedelegation teams that I work with on this process, to stress emphatically, please communicate to California, so customer service knows when they get that call, January 1 at 12:02 in the morning, that they're covering this going forward. That's from our side, that's the best that I can do is hammer that home with the delegation team I work with. And also prepare our access center, our MCO department to have that information in their pockets. So when they get those calls, they'll be able to say, very matter of fact, this is who you need to contact, this is what happened, this is who's responsible now. But please, like they did prior, right? They did the right thing and admitted those individuals on a promise that there might be coverage.
I did. I would also make sure that you have the right contact information.
Absolutely.
Because it went to the CEOs, and I can tell you what, not one CEO is still existing in my organization, and by October 1st, I won't have my organization. We will be moving on to something else. And the same thing is happening with a lot of other, so let's make sure now, because we have plenty of time to do that, because we do not want our people to be the ones that end up suffering because our papers got lost or they got misdirected or the person isn't there and the email gets lost in a cloud somewhere.
Absolutely. And having, if this decision does move forward and we do have approval come the end of the month, the 29th, I'm going to be knocking at Tracy's door with letters in hand to get those notifications out to MDHHS first and foremost, then get notified the partners, and then we'll roll out the notifications to the network. I'll sit down with Adam right side by side and be sure we have all of those right contacts at that hospital level, so that at the highest acuity of care we're hitting this and making those
to, I do have a plan to give multiple levels of notifications to the provider network as well as the people served, because I think it's most important for the individuals we work with to know that if you have a problem, if you have an issue, if you have your provider tell you, I can't see you today, speak up. I need to know. So I can work within our provider network to be sure that there isn't any delay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion with support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Item number 6, no items to receive and file. Item number 7, no resolutions. Item number 8, other possible agenda items. 8A, interim CEO update.
I promise to be very short.
We're doing it a lot tonight.
Long period of time. So, on a high level, I just want to celebrate that Agnes is a large individual. I know Lori was at Saturday's event. She will proudly share her picture. Yes, and she's bossing somebody around or something in her picture. I'm not sure what she was doing.
She does that good.
But it was great. The staff did a great job. It was at the ISD, just a reminder. We actually had less people come this year than we did last year. That was the downfall. But we think we learned a lesson. It probably really should be in September. You know, because it's August when you guys are on vacation and we're trying to get ready for school and that type of thing. But it was still a great event. They had 20 more vendors than they had previous years, so they had 80 vendors. Great partnership. We greatly appreciate Mark Happel came. We had the superintendent there speak. We had therapy dogs. We had massage therapy. We had art therapy, and then of course all our various providers. It's a great opportunity to learn more about what's occurring in our community, and of course great for our staff to interact, of course, too, with all the great services. You can always learn. You think you know what happens in this county, and you don't. Always something more to learn. Other update quickly is this week, Monday, myself, Wayne, and Oakland CEOs and CFOs had the opportunity to meet with Director Hertel, Megan Gruen, who's the Assistant Director, and Kristen Jordan. She is the Director over the division that we are under. It was great to have the opportunity to do that. During that meeting, we shared our 3 concerns. And our 3 concerns, as you all know, are the ISF, WASCO, and this recent CCVHC proposed language. They listened. They were polite. They did not ask any questions. They thanked us for the information. It was a very kind of a short meeting because it was just kind of an agenda, kind of explaining our concerns. I think again it was a great opportunity for them to hear them again. I don't think they were new to them. Does that make sense? So there wasn't really a lot of discussion. So I just wanted to give you an update. That's kind of where we're at, and then that's also why my report would be short because the 3 hot topics. These are not the only things, as you can tell, that we're working on. But there hasn't been a ton of movement in the last 2 weeks because where we're at is we're waiting on the state. And we're behind the scenes still advocating, but we're waiting on them to say, what are you going to do with this feedback? And the next step is for them to give us whatever their proposed draft is, and then we'll have to make a very quick course of action based on that. And then I can give you an update in more detail about discussions with the Tri-County area and a strategy to make the region successful in the board update. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But I told you I'd be short.
I just have a comment. Everybody's telling the state this is a bad idea. I don't understand why they want to go forward with it. That's it. Okay, any other questions, you guys?
Rhetorical statement.
Right. Okay. We're going to have a special full board meeting tonight, immediately following this meeting. And then we're going to have our full board meeting Wednesday, August 28th at 6 o'clock here, 15-mile location. Item 9, provider comments. Any providers that want to give us an update? Okay, item 10, hearing of the public. Is there anybody that would like to address this board? Just forward up here and give us your name, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Charlene Nicholas, and thank you for the discussion tonight. I was happy to be here to get a different perspective on the move and things that are going on. And I just wanted to comment on the things that I heard from this evening. One was, about privacy issues that you brought up, that others had concerns about privacy with working with clients and things, and that we would definitely, listen to staff and the professional providers provide those services to make sure that's done. But then I also heard contradictions, which is we will have cubicles, we will have shared spaces that you'll have to use. So those are, you know, some of the concerns that I have. There is anxiety about a move and changes and things, but that's also what we've heard tonight, is that while there will be room for input, there's already things that have been decided that is a concern. Also, just food for thought, I heard about that this building has industrial space that's not being used or even wasted, while the other ending building would provide storage for Iron Mountain documents. So I was just wondering if that unused space here could accommodate Iron Mountain, you know, paperwork as well, and get savings in that way. So, thank you for allowing me to speak and for your important decision.
Thank you. Is there anybody else wishing to address this board? Going once, going twice. Okay, does anybody have anything else to add before we adjourn?
I have something just really quickly. I already gave Bill my update, but Richard and I were at Michigan Association of Counties leadership meeting, and we were able to speak with the board about, you know, what Tracy already brought up, and it was a good discussion because Matt had not heard about it at all. So when they contacted the CMHA, they were told, well, it's a Macomb County thing, not a Michigan thing. So thankfully Richard was there to explain because I was like, I just kind of go off and Richard's like, really cool. So he just explained, like, right now how we are being affected, but we are just the first. And there were commissioners from the UP that were very interested because they also will be affected immediately. And so that kind of surprised our MAC board because first they hadn't heard about it, and then when they questioned it, it was like, oh, it's a Macomb County thing. So, you know, that's something that they were not the happiest to hear because they do agree that it's difficult to get in front of the state and to have them even listen to what anyone has to say. But I did forward them our proclamation, which they are going to use as kind of the example for other counties to do their own proclamation. And Richard gave some point to our MAC board of how to move forward with discussion and kind of what's to come if they don't get ahead of it, because they have more time than we do, but we need to make a fuss together now. So hopefully they were listening, they were very interested. MAC fully supports Macomb County and what our efforts are, and whatever is needed, just let me know, and it will be relayed to them. But you do have the full support of Matt. Good job.
Thank you. Mark, is that a hand raise? Nope. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to add? Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
Motion is heard by everybody. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. There's no 5-minute breaks. There's nothing. We're rolling. Let's go. All right. I'd like to call to order the special full board meeting, August 14th, 2024. I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda is adopted. Anybody from the public wishing to speak? This is the first hearing of the public. You guys get 4 today. Anybody from the public? All right. We will close hearing of the public and we'll move on to item 4. I'll take a motion to approve the recommendation of Tracy Smith of the Macomb County Community Mental Health CEO position.
So moved. Support.
Motion from Megan, support from Dana. Just real quickly, I want to thank James I want to thank Megan, I want to thank everybody on this board, and I want to thank Tracy as well. It was a pretty different process than what some of us have been through previously by adding James in there, but I think it was extremely helpful in streamlining it. And I'm grateful for all of your help in getting us to this point. Tracy, I'm glad you are still here at this point, especially after today. With that, I will, Nick,
Just one question, does this include approval of the contract?
the contract is, yes, if we approve it today, I'm going to send it around first thing in the morning for signatures from myself, Tracy, Al.
So we're approving both the appointment and the contract?
Yes. John?
I'm really glad that we didn't vote on this and that it was moved to later. Because I've really thought long and hard about this. So, as you know, I voted no the first time. And I've really spent a lot of hours just obsessing over this vote. I've taken it extremely seriously. And I thank you for sharing those letters of recommendation that you shared. Because one of the letters was from a friend of mine that I've known for over 30 years, that I hold in the highest regard. She was someone that I depended on for over 30 years as my right hand. And it's made a big difference to me, a really big difference. I mean, I cannot tell you how much that letter meant to me. So I am going to vote yes tonight because I know Tracy's done a wonderful job, but that letter from Karen, who is my best friend, my confidant, I mean, I relied on Karen for over 30 years. As
How many years?
The person I she knows that whenever I needed a person that I went to as a confidant when I was the head of the union, she was the one that I always went to. And her writing that letter really made all the difference in the world for me. So I will be voting yes tonight. Because if Karen recommended you, then that means a vote.
And I know this isn't appropriate, but I just want to. She is everything that Donna said, and that's all.
She really is.
She is.
She really is. I mean, she was always
Even
the
if you did
person
write the letter, I
that
would still say
trusted.
that.
She was the head of our money.
Oh.
So I gotta tell her that. You know, she was the head of our money.
She is.
Yes, and Megan and I wanted to make sure that everything that we saw,
Yes.
we shared with the entire board because it obviously it affects all of us. This is a major decision.
It is.
And it is an important decision on the direction of where we're going. So we wanted everybody to have the same information that Megan and I had. So with that, okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next, hearing of the public. The fourth and final hearing of the public. Anybody?
Can I be the public?
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? I just want to, I don't want to spend a lot of time, but just to say thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that we have to make some really hard decisions sometimes, and sometimes we're going to disagree, and that's okay. But just I want you to know that you got us. I just need to take a deep breath. Okay, so in that being said, I can't promise that I won't make mistakes. I can promise that at least in most instances humanly possible, my heart will be in the right place. So I look forward to the, hopefully, because I feel like you never know in life, many years of collaboration. And when I mean collaboration, I'm not just saying you, I'm saying with all the amazing people that who work here and all the amazing providers that we have in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.